Spags, and the baseball savants on the other side, playing producer right now, but he's got it going. We're cooking now. Mr. Jake Ari, how you doing, Jake?
I'm doing well. Now that we've hopefully got this figured out, hopefully everyone can hear you okay and hear me okay and see us. Yeah, big slate and ready to get down to it.
Yeah, we have ourselves 15 games on paper, but we're down two already. A couple other ones we're watching the weather of as we go. But right now, if you want to get your updates on the weather, use our rankings on awesemo.com. And you can do that with a promo code live before lock. Get in there half off your first month on any package. You can get ones with Fantasy Cruncher as well. Those will be half off your first month. So get in there. Really, the way that all the pros are playing is going to be the stuff that we give you in terms of data and in terms of tools on our website right now. So go awesemo.com, use that promo code live before lock. Jake, weather-wise, what are we doing here? We have two games that were down. The Royals game and the White Sox game are both postponed. What else are you looking at weather-wise? Any games that you're writing off or concerned about?
The Pittsburgh game is the one that could be of some concern. Right now, I'm just treating it like that one's going to play. It looks like in our projections on the site, there's a small postponement risk, but not big enough for me to really take them off the table. I mean, it is one of the best hitting environments on the slate in Texas. So for me, I'm still playing that one. The other one I think is actually here in Minneapolis, but that one looks fine. It's probably going to stop raining here pretty soon. And they said that maybe that game will even start on time. They were expecting a late start, but now it looks like they may even be able to start right at 8 Eastern.
Okay. Yeah, so that seems like a slight chance of postponement for a few games, but for the most part, expecting things to go. We'll keep you updated as the hour goes on. Obviously, one important game, which we currently have as a 5% chance of postponement, is that Texas game. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on that. So that is one that a lot of people are going to have ownership on in terms of not the pitching, but in terms of the hitting for sure. Mm-hmm. All right, Jake, what are you getting the most stack-wise so far? We have a ton of options to choose from. You got a ton going on today. I mean, pretty much every player available other than the games that we've talked about. Where are you going?
Yeah, so I did 300 lineups before this, so I'm going to cut this down to 150. But just to get a kind of a good idea of where I'm at here, Cincinnati is one that I really, really like going up against our boy Jason Vargas. It is a low implied total at only 3.8, but Vargas, a guy that when he's not missing bats, and he can sometimes, but I just don't see him missing a lot of bats here. And there are some hitters I really, really want to target, like Suarez and Puig especially, but I'm fine with like Casali at a catcher spot for 3,500, Peraza leading off only 3,300. So they're just super cheap, and there is a lot of pitching that I want to pay up for. As you guys can probably see, the Dodgers are up there. The Red Sox, let's see, I didn't think I was going to be crazy about the Red Sox, but when I aggregated my projections, I did really like them. Just a lot of really good hitting on their side, and Devers and Bogarts are two guys that I thought were pretty underpriced. So it does make sense that it'll fit in Betts and JD under 5K, and same thing with Benintendi. Other stacks, San Diego is one that I anticipated to be on pretty heavily, and it looks like that's going to be the case against Tehran. Tehran's ownership, I believe, is, let's see, this may not be completely updated, but I believe he was one of the highest owned pitchers. Yeah, he was fourth in the last one. Not crazy at under 15%, but that is some potential leverage you can get on a big slate, and I like Hosmer a little bit. Garcia is not the most intriguing of options, but he is 3,600 leading off, and then Machado just underpriced at 4K, even though I know it's been a little bit of a rough start to the year for him.
Yeah, so I'm with you on that, but let's go back to Cincinnati real fast. I see a lot of people in the chat talking about it, and we should probably spend a little more time. They come up a lot with our projections on awesemo.com. They come up a lot, I think, just as a concept, it's trying to go against Vargas. I'm agreeing with you about the run total here. I don't know if you have a more recent one or if I have a more recent one, but I have it at 4 implied runs. Really not the best, and the Reds have been pretty bad versus left-hand pitching so far to start the year. But on paper, they should be a better hitting team than they are so far this season. And Vargas has been terrible across the board, across both handed sides of the plate. So I don't mind going there. It feels weird, though, because they are going to be chalky, and I assume they're going to be even chalkier as people are actually putting their lineups in. But you have a lot of ownership on Peraza, a good amount on Suarez and Puig as well. Less on Votto, less on Casali, none expected on Irvin and Winker. So that is one place you could differentiate if you want to stack them up. I guess if you know the Reds are going to be chalky, are you still comfortable with having a good amount of them?
It's not ideal on a 15-game slate to go to one of the most popular stacks, but The guys that are chalky, I kind of agree with. So Peraza just leading off too cheap, and then Suarez at 12%. I'm fine with that, even on a big slate. I just think he is one of the best plays of the day. So I'll eat that chalk and differentiate elsewhere. Puig, I know he hits. Maybe he's more like a neutral splits guy, but 15% I think is somewhat fair, especially for an outfield spot where you get three of them. He doesn't take up uh, like your only roster spot for that position, so that's nice. And yeah, everyone else below that is 6% or less, so it's okay with me. It may look a little bit chalkier because of Peraza and because those other couple guys, but those are the guys that I like the most.
Okay, yeah, I think it's a stuff like a situation here where I think these guys do have the stuff to get out of the kind of lull they've been in to start the year. And they really just have been egregiously bad versus lefties, striking out a lot. WRC plus of 88, batting average of 224. So it's been pretty bad looking for the Reds. But I would rather be on a slate. I'd rather be on them rather in a spot like this on a slate where they're not going to be as owned. And I think really they do help you get out to Trevor Bauer, and that's going to be a key part of the slate. But I feel really uncomfortable with the amount of Reds I have, knowing how much the field's going to be on them.
Yeah, for sure. It's never fun to go to a team that's been cold on a big slate where people are going to them. So, yeah, it's always tough mentally to do that. But like, it's just so easy to fit some of those guys in your lineups where you don't have to full stack it, but you can play one or two or three hitters depending on your lineup construction tonight and still differentiate because there's just so many hitters in decent spots tonight that I think you can play.
Yep, I think that's fair. One stack that I went to, and I guess we'll go a little bit under the radar, also a team with not a great total, but one that I think interests me a bit here because of how bad the pitcher on the other side has been. The Oakland stack is one that I find interesting, both from a price perspective and from going against Rick Porcello, who's been just terrible to start the year. 2.13 whip, 5.7 xFIP, giving up 12.3 hits per nine. So pretty big numbers across the board. You could certainly, or 13.3 actually, and you could say that he's maybe due for some positive regression, but the numbers really aren't far off his usual numbers in terms of how he's actually getting there with the swinging strike rate, the chase rate, hard contact. All those numbers are in line. Maybe a bit unlucky, but I think this A's lineup can hit. I think Porcello's really bad. I think this could be a high-scoring matchup on both sides. You have any A's?
Let's see. They're a team I would like to get to. I like targeting against Porcello, but I have not gotten to them yet. So I don't know. I mean, some of these guys are expensive, and you'd like to have the platoon split even against Porcello. Semion's tough to get to at 4,600 leading off when you compare him to some of these other guys at his position at that same price point. Davis is probably my favorite, and then Chapman probably not too far behind. But yeah, I don't know. I think you might be able to talk me onto them because I do like the idea of targeting Porcello, especially with a team that's not going to be chalky and that has kind of a low total. I think they could easily make Porcello implode here.
Yeah, I just think the things that we've seen from Porcello, I mean, we did see him as a chalk pitcher last week. He's not going to be there again today under 5% ownership, so it's not a leverage play. But I think it's a spot here where the A's just as a lineup, they look pretty good on paper. Just a good amount of power in the middle of the order there with Chapman, Davis, and Piscotty. Some of these guys are underperforming to start the year. Kendry Morales, pretty bad so far in 2019, but I think Semien, Chapman, Davis, Piscotty, that particular grouping to me, all those guys are hitting pretty well. And I think with Porcello just being not that good, might be able to save a little money and get some upside if Porcello does get shelled or close to it once again.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't disagree with the call at all. I just unfortunately haven't ended up there just yet.
All right. And what about the Boston side? Obviously, Boston, one of the higher implied, actually, are they the highest? They might be the highest implied total going against Aaron Brooks. Maybe tough to afford because price-wise, if you're trying to stack them up as your main stack, you're probably not getting to Trevor Bauer unless you're doing some sort of gymnastics. But how much Boston are you going to get today, Jake?
I think I got about 10 or 12% of them, 13% actually out of 300 lineups. So that's a spot where I'm pretty comfortable playing. I don't think they're going to have a problem getting to Aaron Brooks here, at least putting a lot of balls in play, which is something you obviously love in DFS. And you're right about it's kind of them or Bauer for me. So while I am getting to a ton of Bauer on my non-Bauer lineups, the Red Sox are going to make up a majority of the remaining lineups that don't have Bauer.
All right, and we'll talk more about some stacks as we go. We should probably touch on pitchers before we get to the halfway point of the show and do the home run picks, which of course we'll be giving at 6:30 Eastern time. We'll also give an update on the scoreboard since I saw your guys' live stream yesterday with you and Josh, and it is a sad day in which Josh can now claim that he is in first place.
Did he get one last night?
He did not get one last night, but he was in first place before last night.
Okay.
Yeah. Thankfully, no. His reign of terror ended with an 0 for 4 Charlie Blackmon day. So. And it was so bad that Blackman's out of the lineup today. So maybe Josh is now going to swing back the other way to where he belongs, the negative side of things.
Sure.
But let's talk about pitchers. Obviously, you mentioned Trevor Bauer. He's a guy we both are going to prioritize. Pretty much everybody industry-wide is going to prioritize today. In a good spot going against Miami. Miami's lineup here strikes out a lot on paper. The actual lineup also strikes out quite a bit, just under 27% for the aggregate K rate for Miami today. We've seen a bunch of teams against the Marlins get well, I think, in this spot. So I think Bauer, I'm not going to tell anything surprising with. I will tell you, Jake, one guy who I do like on the other side on DraftKings, and I think you could justify him on Yahoo too, really both two-pitcher sites. Sandy Alcantara, I think, also makes some stuff work similar to the Reds. I get him a lot for optimizers. I think I get him on a lot on my own as well organically. Obviously, Bauer, I like a lot, but give me your thoughts on both guys.
Did you say Bauer and who was the other one?
And Alcantara, and both in the same game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Bauer, I mean, it's just hard not to like him. He's been one of my favorite guys for like a year now. So you see my exposures here, I'm double the field if he's going to be at 30+%. I just think he is one of the best pitchers in all of the MLB, which isn't a hot take anymore. He is. I mean, he has arrived as a true ace and priced at under 11K here against arguably the worst team in the MLB with some righties in there. It's not like he can't strike out lefties either. I mean, he can strike out literally anyone in the MLB. So 2.9 total at home for the Marlins is pretty telling. This is chalk, but it's really, really good chalk, I think, for me. And then Alcantara, I am getting to a little bit of Alcantara, and that's probably more to do with the projections on our site. I didn't have him grading out as like a super above average arm or anything like that, but the Indians have been a team that I think you can target, at least early in the season. They got back Lindor and Leonys Martin's been hot, so maybe not the same team that we saw the first couple weeks for Cleveland here, but yeah, I don't have a problem with Alcantara. Like, you're looking for value, and if you're trying to fit in a big arm plus some decent bats like your Red Sox, then Alcantara is a pretty easy way to do that for 6,100.
Yeah, it's not the greatest. I mean, it would be nice to be able to have them both capable of getting a win at least, but it's not like Alcantara is getting a bunch of wins anyway on his own. I think the things to me that jump out, I mean, our projection, yes, are definitely help me out a little bit because we do have projected for a little bit over 2x, which will certainly make a pitcher pop if you're trying to build lineups on an optimizer. But Alcantara, I mean, going against an Indians team who on paper is striking out 26% of the time versus right-hand pitching, their lineups K rate is 18.3%, but you're going to have Bauer in there as well having to hit for himself, and he's only had one at-bat versus a righty, so, I mean, you got to assume he's going to give up a few strikeouts just because he didn't strike out that one time. I presume he won't not strike out forever. That's, might be a bold take by me. But I think Alcantara's got some value here. I don't mind him going against this Cleveland lineup. They are getting better, so I think there's some risk going the other way. But 12% swinging strike rate, 36.2% chase rate, not giving up home runs, under 1% on the year. I feel like his results should go the other way than what they've been. He's actually been a little bit unlucky with that BABIP of 332.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a perfectly fine pitcher, perfectly serviceable pitcher, especially for this slate at 6,100 where you've got a handful of arms that you can justify paying up for.
Yeah, our boy Sean V chiming in here, and I'll give his take. This is a fair one. Alcantara not going to get the case, too many walks. He has great stuff, though, when he's on. I mean, I think this Indian lineup, the way that they've hit so far in the year, I mean, the option is there for them to be off again, and that's kind of the spot where I'm hoping for with Alcantara. And we're just trying to make some value. We're trying to make value appear here if you are trying to get to Bauer, and I think that's Alcantara is one spot that he can go. Any hedge stacks going against Trevor Bauer at all, Jake?
I don't think you need to get that cute. I'll check to see if I did. If the way I would hedge against Bauer would be like a bat or maybe two if you really wanted to get leverage. But I got, it's looking like 1 2-man Marlins stack out of 300. So essentially I'm just not getting the Marlins. There are better ways to get leverage on this slate. If Bauer was 65% owned and it was like a 5-game slate, I would for sure think about taking a bunch of bats against Bauer just because it's baseball and anything can happen. But on a 15-game slate, like, you need to make all your bats count. You need all your bats to be part of a stack that is the nuts or have the nuts one-offs. And I'd rather not do that against what I think is the best pitcher on the slate.
Yep, I think that's a fair take. I think Alfaro is a guy I have a little bit of just because a catcher, the price works, and he's a guy who does get on base, and he's been hitting well this year. So I don't mind going to him, just in general. But yeah, I agree. Hedge stacks here. I might have one out of a max 20 that's going against Bauer, but out of that, it's not the most appealing spot because I think if Bauer, even if he doesn't have a great day, probably not going to get killed here by the Marlins. That seems like an unlikely outcome.
Yeah, I mean, just the odds that he's in the winning lineup, I think, are very good. And I don't know that the leverage you get, even if you guess the Curtis Granderson dong or the Alfaro dong, like, you still got a long, long way to go. And Bauer could give up a home run or two and still have 10 strikeouts and be worth it. So
yeah,
it's just
that seems like a fair
game.
take. Before we get to the home run picks, let's talk about one more pitcher I think people may have some questions about today. Griffin Canning, who the Deeper Dive guys made fun of as having a weird name. The Canning is certainly a weird name, but I feel like it might be teetering towards cool name. Like, it kind of sounds like it could be one of the Disney stars who has a pop album out now. Like the hot new it boy of the minute. Griffin Canning is going to be the new Spider-Man. I think that sounds about right to me. I don't have a ton of Griffin Canning. I think it's an okay spot, though. I mean, this Blue Jays team does strike out a lot versus right-hand pitching so far this year, and there are going to be some Ks in the lineup. Certainly a lot of power as well going the other way. But Canning, to me, the price does work. I think having a small bit, the field's 3% seems about right. What about you, Jake? What do you think with him?
It's just weird that we see this price for this guy in his first start. So that's my only thing. Like, I think he's just priced out of a spot where I need to get to him. Like, I'd rather just go down to a guy like Alcantara, like we talked about, or Chacin in that same price range, or Teheran. I mean, he's not that chalky, and I think he has more K upside. Like, this Griffin Canning, is that it? I keep forgetting his name throughout the day, but
Hollywood It Boy Griffin Canning is up at the Mound Center.
Hollywood It Boy. Only thrown 82 pitches and then 81 in his last couple starts in the minors. Adam brought up a good point about not knowing how long his leash is going to be. So there's just a little bit too much unknown for 7,800. Whereas I think there's a bunch of other pitchers in his range or lower than him that I'll take stabs at. Like Vargas even.
Yeah, he does. He has a better run total supporting him if you want to, which is awful. Doesn't make Griffin Canning look particularly good, but maybe makes Jason Vargas. Oof.
Yeah,
I don't want to go there.
I don't want it to either, but he allows me to get Bauer and good bats. So, and Cole as well.
Before we get to home run picks, anybody else popping up for pitcher for you that you want to hit on before the break that maybe people are not going to be on very much?
Velasquez, I'm around the field. It's looking like once the lineups get eliminated based on ownership, I'll probably end up, a decent amount under on Velasquez. But I understand it for 8,700. He's just a very volatile arm in my mind. So I don't think I need to make a big stand on going overweight on Velasquez.
Yep. All right. That seems fair. Yeah. Velasquez, I think, is not a weird pick at all. I like him quite a bit today. I think he's in a really strong spot here. I think this entire Philly pitching staff has just been, for the most part, I don't want to speak out of turn about my boy Jared Eichhoff, but for the most part, they've been really bad to start the year. But I think the spot here versus Tigers for Velasquez, a 3.5 implied run total as well. It seems like at least he's getting the Vegas backing, unlike some other guys, like poor John Means yesterday, who, it sucks. We had to take that stance against the evil Josh yesterday and John Means, but the run total did not support him having a good day. Whereas, a guy like Vince Velasquez, 3.5 implied runs, like that's the time you want these guys that we're going to have a good day and who have the numbers to back it out. And I think that would be one bow on the John Means day of yesterday, which sucked. I didn't like having to defend that hill on that day of all days. Going against a team for the second time in a week too.
Yeah, that was tough. We probably should have gotten off that much of Means, but
well, no, because Josh makes you dig your heels in. Like with those takes, and then you have to do it. And then you had defending poor John Means on a day where he didn't need to be defended. But the next time John Means, like if he goes against the Tigers next week or something, that's the time we're going to be back on the Means train, I think.
No, I don't mind having my mind changed. I just don't think Josh changed my mind well enough for me to back off the Means take. So I'll back off takes every once in a while.
The 2 times in a week thing was a big one that I think I mentioned in the video, the Four Corners short form video I did yesterday. It's like that always gives me pause because you see a pitcher stuff, especially a changeup pitcher. Like once you know when that's coming, I think it's a little bit easier to figure him out. And I think he's gonna have tough times the second time he sees anybody. In that game yesterday, that hurt. That one hurt.
For sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
All right, let's go to Dong picks. It's that time of day. We do have the updated scoreboard. Josh has 5 on the year. I am tied with EMAC for number 2 with 4 on the year. And Jake's O for Schneid continues, even though Acuna was a pick I wanted myself yesterday, but we didn't get there. Neither him nor Flowers. The Brave stack, an ongoing theme, underperformed.
Yeah. All right, I'm just going back to the old faithful guys. I think someone called it earlier in the chat, but I will take Suarez from the Reds, $4,100 against Vargas. Were you going to take him?
Yes, he was actually one of my one-offs in my video today. Yes, he was one of my guys. But he's historically a Jake guy, so I can't get in the way of your love for him.
Yeah. He's my guy tonight. So there you have it.
All right. You know what? I'm gonna go to the Cubs game then, because we didn't talk about them as a stack yet, but they are one of my favorite stacks on the day. Going against Felix, a nice run total, 4.7. Javi Baez will be my pick. I think everything looks good there. I'm curious where he would fall on our tyrant dictator Josh's chart, but I think it's a good spot for Javi Baez.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that. Just a little bit tougher of a park, but against Felix righty, that's actually a pretty bold call. So kudos to you if you get that one correct.
He is one of my most owned guys, and yeah, Felix a little bit better versus lefties. I thought about Schwarber, but I just feel like Baez is going to get a little more opportunity there, and I just like him more as a play. I feel like sometimes people just play these Dong picks, which is fine. Like, you can just play him straight away. But like Baez, if you play him, like, he's not going to have I don't think he's going to have a bad day today. I find it hard to believe he'll have a bad day.
Yeah,
even if he doesn't hit a home run.
It's baseball. Who knows?
That is also true. Oh, Rhys Hoskins. Baez is 24 on Josh's chart. So there we go. And Josh's pick is in of Rhys Hoskins. I don't hate that pick either.
All right. No Spags. Chris Bryant. No, I don't get it. Okay. Well.
People want Chris Bryant. Let's see. Chris Bryant. So for me, I have Chris Bryant as a 2% home run rate versus righties. And then when you adjust for Felix Hernandez's probability, it would be a 2.3% spot where he would be able to hit it out. Baez, for me, I have a 5.2% home run rate, 6% chance to hit it out. So that's why I would go Baez.
You guys and your fancy numbers, man. It's all about feel in MLB DFS. Don't you know that?
Honestly, the one thing I've done wrong this year has actually been trying to play Vegas totals for the home run game, which I don't think is the way to do it. I think that's a much smarter approach for pitchers and for building stacks and all that. But I think for the home run game, it's just like, who is the worst splits versus giving up home runs? And then who is the oh boy, did you get a Zoom alert?
I did not.
We got a Zoom alert about our minutes, but I think we're okay. They extended our minutes for this call, Jay.
Okay. What is that?
Because when it's a 3-man call, like we had Josh on before, so
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But yeah,
there we go.
Where's this? Yeah. Anyway, the point being, I think that's a good home run spot for Baez, even though it is righty, and Felix Hernandez, I think, is a good spot to get blown up. All right, let's see. If Bauer is a trap, everyone's trapped. That seems fair.
I mean, if Bauer doesn't work out, he just doesn't work out. I'm fine with that. I'm fine going down with what I think is the best pitcher on the slate. Like, he's 30%. I still don't think that's high enough for me. So I'm fine going down with the best pitchers, hoping one of these value stacks that I'm on go off, whether it's Cincinnati or San Diego or one of these. And then I've got a lot of different variations with the best pitchers.
Oh, yeah. Also, people in the chat, if you want to drop your home run picks, I know sometimes people do that, but we'll actually give you a solicitation. Drop your home run picks. I feel like it's fun when people are dropping theirs in there too. So hit them in the chat. You won't get anything from us, but you get pride. You can bring it into the stream tomorrow. And if you remember that you were correct and you're not lying, we'll be like, hey, that guy was right. He's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll give you a little stamp on your hand so you get into the club. All right, Jake, Cub stack thoughts real fast, since they are one that we just talked about. How much of them are you going to have, if any?
I don't have a ton of Cub stacks, I don't think. I got 2% Cub stacks, and those will probably get filtered out. I don't love targeting the park in Seattle, so that's one of the issues. And then I'm not crazy about Hayward or Bodie, righty. Felix is, I don't know if there's any weight to this, but he does seem to pitch better when he's in Seattle. He's got the crowd work in there, even though he is washed up. It seems like all his good starts lately in these last couple of years have been at home. And and just really not enough lefties for me. So while I like Baez, I think Bryant's fine. Obviously, you love Rizzo. The rest of this Cubs lineup isn't really that intriguing for their prices for me.
So I'll give you my counterpoint to why I don't care about the amount of lefties and all that. So Felix giving up a 1.37 whips to lefties, 1.38 to righties. XFIP a little worse versus lefties, 5.19 versus a 4.8 versus righties. But he's given up more hits to righties, 9.7. This is going back to last year, by the way. Striking out less righties, 7.2 versus 7.4 versus lefties. More home runs to lefties, 4.3%, but still above league average versus righties with 3.4%. So I just like the Cubs lineup. I think their prices work for a 5-man stack, and you could also get, because you're getting one cheap guy no matter how you kind of put him in there, either Descalso up top on DraftKings, or you're getting Schwarber maybe at the bottom who has a ton of pop as well, obviously. Some ways to get there. So that would be the reason I would advocate for them as being your big stack.
That makes sense. And they're gonna be pretty low owned, it looks like, and they're also it's tough to fit Bauer in with them. So you might have to make some uncomfortable plays with them, which is always fine to do in baseball. It's just hard to do when you are hand building. So I probably wouldn't hand build get to the Cubs, but the ones I'm looking at right now, they look okay if you can stomach a guy like Vargas, and maybe just not the best hitters parks like some of these Dodgers 2-mans I'm seeing, Turner and Taylor and such. So you can get Cubs Red Sox if you go Velasquez Alcantara as well.
Yeah, I think that was actually what I got with our projections when I was playing. I actually watched Josh's Fantasy Cruncher video on MLB, using the Fantasy Cruncher for MLB, just to play with it a little more and kind of get a better read. Because I do mostly hand build, but I try to incorporate optimizer so I kind of know where to go. And if you haven't watched that video, go check it out in our chat. I think you just search MLB DFS guide and you should be able to find it pretty fast. But it's a good video. And I think using our projections, the Cubs came up a lot for me. Actually, let me see if I have one. It wasn't ones with Baez, but it was ones with like parts of the bottom of the order and some of the other guys. And I'm pretty sure it was Alcantara and Bauer, or Velasquez and Bauer you can get there. Yep. A Cubs red stack with Bauer and Velasquez was what I got. That's what Zobrist. Yeah. Zobrist being out of the lineup, though, doesn't help that. So I got to pivot off him. Anyway. All right. Any other weird stacks that you're on that you feel like the public may not be on, since that's one of mine?
Let's see. Weird stacks. Is Cleveland weird? I mean, I guess Alcantara is getting a little bit of ownership, but I'm kind of playing both sides of that one. The Dodgers, that's not weird for me, but it looks like they're going to be fairly low owned against Pomeranz, a guy who does give up a lot of hard contact. It's not a great park. I understand that, but I think there are some really great prices here. Seager lefty for 3,900 is a guy that people aren't really going to be on, and then Turner at just 3,600. So if you can deal with the bad park, which I've been able to, those top 3 especially look really good for me for the Dodgers.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that wasn't one I got to today. But I guess, yeah, I mean, it's never really a bad time to go against Drew Pomeranz, I think, with especially this Dodgers lineup. The pitcher's park, rather, I think kind of threw me off that scent. And Walker Buehler, though, on the other side would be a guy I'd be interested in. And I actually think I have him in a couple lineups without Bauer in them, because I think he's a guy who does seem like he should have more upside in this spot based on the Vegas total and the matchup. He just hasn't been that good this year, which I think is a little bit the reason I have pause paying that much. But in terms of raw upside, I feel like he's up there with Bauer on the slate.
Who's that again?
Walker Buehler.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, Buehler is he's a perfectly fine option. Just a guy that's too close to Bauer and Cole, who I may disagree a little bit on that. I think he doesn't have quite the upside they do, but still, like, you can make a case for that. Just ownership reasons alone. Buehler, a very good pitcher, going into the best pitcher's park, and who are you really worried about in this Giants lineup? So. No, I don't think it's a bad call at all. Let's see where I got to him, actually. 1% Buehler I got. So
there you go. I think I'm at 5% Buehler, which felt like enough. But yeah, to me, it's just like a price pivot off of Bauer. And I think it's when you're sort of struggling, like you put a little Cole in, you put a little maybe Castillo in. I think that's sort of Buehler is right there with me. And I think people will kind of sleep on him because he hasn't been that great this year. But the matchup is pretty good, and this Giants lineup should have a bunch of strikeouts in it.
Yeah, that's fair.
How about here's one other stack that I have today, which I should have forced more in, actually, now that I'm looking at it. I talked about it in my video this morning, but the Diamondbacks going against CC Sabathia. Sabathia's been not getting shelled so far this year, but all the numbers seem to be indicating like he's going to get shelled soon. Hard contact on the rise, strikeouts getting even lower, giving up home runs. Actually been getting lucky with his BABIP, but 170 BABIP against him. So he's getting a pretty good batting average on balls in play is what that means. So that means it's probably going to be a little bit worse as time goes on. I like this stack quite a bit here. And the Diamondbacks have been hitting pretty much everybody this year, especially the like Escobar, Peralta, Walker. I think those guys and Marte as well. I still like quite a bit. Any Diamondbacks for you?
I'm not getting to a lot of them, but now that you bring them up, like they all seem to grade out okay for me. So maybe I'm getting them as one-offs more, or maybe that'll change as I finish my crunches here. But yeah, like I like Kettle Marte. I like Walker against CC. CC's not a guy I love stacking against in general, but yeah, looking at these ownerships, especially for Walker and Marte, and you could probably make a case for Escobar as well. I've got no problem with it, so that might be one of your sneakier options tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the ownership on it has actually, I think, come down even lower throughout the day, but still a 4.7 implied run total. And again, CC just not missing bats at all on the year, just a 6.4% swing strike rate, which I think is actually the lowest on the slate. So, going against a team who's hitting pretty well versus lefties, and then CC not missing bats does seem like a recipe to me of getting blown up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We have seen just this week, we actually did see a Diamondback stack the last time that Jordan Lyles was on a slate. That was the one you wanted to have.
Yeah. I think I was on that stack. I think I did really well that night.
Yeah, I unfortunately was not, and I don't think it'll make up for it today, but maybe it will. Maybe it will, Jake.
Never know. You got to have that positive attitude. Positive attitude is the key to DFS. That's what I hear.
All right. What other games have we not talked about that seem like they should be hit on? Should we talk more about Pittsburgh and Texas? Because I feel like we sort of said if the weather's looking okay, just go with it, though. I think our postponement risk may have gone up, unless mine just rounded up for me.
I think the postponement risk went away, actually.
Oh, did it? Okay. Oh, I didn't check the most recent ones. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good sign then. So we're okay now playing this game. Are you getting a lot of this game? I mean, the Pittsburgh side doesn't hit well on paper, but the 5.3 implied runs do seem pretty nice, and the matchup with Sampson as well. And then Lyles, on the other side, pretty prone to blowing up, and Texas does have the opportunity. So what are you doing with this game?
I'm playing the Pittsburgh side. I'm playing quite a bit of Pittsburgh, actually. I'm not worried about the weather. And then looking at what Alex just tweeted out from the Osmo Weather account, which you guys can follow, I believe it's at Osmo Weather.
Yep.
It looks like he's not concerned with it as well. So I really like these Pirates bats going up against Sampson. And yeah, I didn't get to a ton of Rangers here, which worries me. One of the highest totals on the slate. And I don't know. I just think Lyles is a good deal better than Sampson, and you're not getting a big discount on some of these Rangers hitters, I don't think.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you there. Yeah, the total here is obviously nice for the Texans, and actually they are the highest on the slate. So my bad. It's not the Red Sox. So the Red Sox are number 2. But yeah, like the spot here I think is good versus Lyles, but I agree it's better versus Sampson. I think the hope though is that these Pirates can actually hit, and you really haven't shown any propensity for it though. I guess the middle of the order does look kind of good with Josh Bell. Cabrera's actually been hitting pretty well this year, even though that seems like that'll come back down to earth, and Colin Moran too. Which Pirates would you like the most, I guess, out of that stack?
The guys I'm getting the most of, let me see if I can get back to this crunch while this other one runs. I know I was getting to a lot of Polanco. As you see, he's one of my highest exposed players in this crunch, and Cabrera was up there for me, but Bell is a guy that always grades out well for me. He just doesn't really strike out that much, and especially when he's up against right-handed pitching, I love to target him. So those 3 guys, 3, 4, 5, are the guys I really, really love.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you there. Moran, I think, doesn't have quite as much power, but he's not a bad player, and I think the price works. Cervelli, I'm a little bit less enthusiastic for. I mean, as part of a stack, it is what it is, but he's so bad to start this year. He's got a 31 WRC plus, 0.063 ISO. I don't know what's wrong with him, but he's going to be one of the highest owned catchers on the slate, possibly the highest owned. Good deal, but I don't know that I want to target him for a bounce back when there are so many guys who've actually been good hitting in this lineup this year.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like Casali is one of my favorite guys at catcher tonight. So it's hard for me to get to a bunch of Cervelli in that same price range, especially when he's going to be owned, because it's looking like people are getting more on to this Pittsburgh game. So, yeah, I think I agree with you there on Cervelli.
Yeah, I think, yeah, as we see this ownership go up, and we probably will as people feel a little more safe with the weather, I think as the hour goes on, though I guess the ownership projections don't account for weather, so maybe it won't go up that much more. But I think that is something to keep an eye on there, where the number gets high. I mean, this Pittsburgh team has just been so bad versus righties on the year. I think the aggregate lineup numbers aren't as bad, but a little bit bolstered by some limited sample sizes for like Brian Reynolds, I think. I don't know. It seems like a bit of a trap to me, even though I have a decent amount of exposure. That Pittsburgh side has been so bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many other games. Like, these high total games get so much higher owned than they should be on a slate with whatever. We have 13 games now. So I think in general, it's good to fade or, go underweight on some of these high owned stacks, because there's just so much variance, and they're like twice and 3 times as highly owned, and that's just not an optimal play from a tournament strategy. Like that, you rarely see the top stack of the night, top owned stack, actually be the nuts. So
yeah, that's true. But that one I do, if I remember from Alex's article, Osmo has an article every day where he ranks or every weekday at least, where he ranks the top stacks of the day. And Pittsburgh was number 1 by a pretty decent margin, at least earlier this afternoon. So I don't know if that's changed, but yeah, it seems hard to avoid them, but maybe, not worth going crazily above the field on at this point.
That sounds like what Josh does, Jake. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a copycat league around here. You do what the player, I'm always looking to learn. So Josh is a smart player, so I listen to Josh.
Let's see. You got some questions, some either or type questions in the YouTube chat, which let's see if they spur anything. Matthew asking Puig, Goodrum, or Martin. Which would you go with as I guess a one-off?
Puig. I really like Puig.
See, I like Puig as part of the stack, but as a one-off, it's really not a great matchup on paper. What is his? Yeah. So like going back to last year versus lefties, he only got a 213 batting average, 265 on base, 174 ISO. So he hasn't been great versus lefties. So I don't know that I'd love him as a one-off, but I might go Goodrum there.
Goodrum going up against, let me think here.
Going against Vince Velasquez,
yeah,
but
okay,
Velasquez
is
is much worse
play.
versus lefties.
Yeah.
So you get the lefty benefit there.
That's also a way better leverage play than Puig, who's going to be owned and in the stack and as a one-off.
Yeah, so yeah, I think for me it's a one-off Goodrum, but I have a lot more Puig in stacks. As part of a stack, then I guess just go Puig.
Yeah.
Would you go John Ryan Murphy at catcher or Sandy Leon? I would go Murphy.
John Ryan Murphy or Sandy Leon. I'll try to pull up Cruncher. Never mind. I would go with John Ryan Murphy.
Yeah, for me, it's a pretty far and away one. Murphy hit this year, just hitting much better. I mean, he's got a 7.9% home run rate. He'd actually hit home runs. Sandy Leon, I think, okay as a Boston stack or part of a stack, but as a one-off, I think you just want the guy who has power, and that's Murphy going against the guy who gives up a lot of home runs.
Sure.
Let's see. A lot of anyone playings. Devers or Suarez on DK? That would be Suarez for me.
Suarez.
Jake?
Yep. Basically anyone versus Suarez tonight. It's probably going to be Suarez.
Yeah, I think he's the best one-off part of that stack, I would say, for sure. I think it's hard to even make a case for any of the other guys.
Yeah.
All right, what else do we got here? Nothing good. Anyone playing Bryce Harper? We didn't talk much about this Philly side, but they do have 5 implied runs in their favor going against Spencer Turnbull, who, I don't know, he's pitching okay, but maybe unsustainable for him. And this Philly team does do a good job of getting on base and generating power and just creating runs. This particular lineup at 108 WRC plus. I have the stack. I don't have a lot of one-off Harper, but I think Josh's pick of Hoskins, I think, looks strong. The top 5 to me just all look strong. What about you with Jake and Philly? Or what about you with Philly, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, anytime Philly's going to be low owned, they are in they're one of these teams I put in the category, like when they're going to be low owned, and it looks like they're going to be there tonight. You should always think about taking a shot on them. They are overpriced, it's looking like, because they were going to go up against Ross, and Turnbull's probably a good amount better than Ross. But if they're just not going to get ownership tonight, like, how are we not considering more Phillies? I mean, it took us this long to talk about them, so There's just loaded with good hitters. These top 5 are really, really awesome. I like Williams as well in the 6th spot. So if you can afford them, if you can somehow fit them in with one of the top studs, like, go for it. They seem set up to be a really awesome stack.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like they just are a good hitting team. And I think in this particular kind of night where you're just trying to find good hitting teams who are not going to be terribly highly owned, but have some upside. And I think if Turnbull to me is not a pitcher I'm dying to roster, but he's been good. He's got 9 Ks per 9 this year. Going back to last year, 8.7 Ks per 9. Like I think the stuff that he has is pretty good. He doesn't give up a ton of home runs, but it just seems like maybe him going against a team who's pretty good across the board. I mean, everybody on the team in the top 5 is a WRC plus over 107. And then you go down to Maikel Franco's hitting at the bottom of the order, still has a 113 WRC plus and some power. It's a lot of ways it can go wrong for Turnbull, even if he is confident.
Yeah, it's just Philly's not a team I want to target. So, target against with pitching really at all this year, especially with the pitcher I don't think is great. So, why shouldn't we be looking to the other side, I guess would be my rhetorical question.
Yep, that seems fair. What about this Cardinals and Nationals game, Jake? Both teams have 4.8 implied runs. The Washington bullpen's actually been really bad to start the year too, so that'd be a slight benefit here for the Cardinals side. But I didn't get here a ton, but I feel like I should have gotten here more, honestly.
If I was going to a side, I think it would probably be up against Anibal. I think I would probably take these Cardinals bats. I'm just not getting to really either side of this game, which is worrisome. I think I actually am getting to the Nats, so mostly not getting to the Cardinals. I think Anibal's fine. He went through a stretch there for a couple of years where he would target against him literally every single slate, and he made some adjustments. I don't know. I mean, are you on St. Louis here? Because I'm really not.
So I kind of want to be, because Anibal, like I agree, because I remember last year, and we've actually played him. I think it was a stream with you where we like hyped him, or at least a little bit. We're like, he's a guy that we like. And I remember from last year too, like thinking that, he's kind of rounding into form and improving. Seems like he's going back the other way this year. He's given up 10.7 hits per 9, 1.78 whip, 5.8 xFIP so far this year. Swinging strike rate also down to 9% from 10.2% going back to last year. That certainly can level back out, but he's been bad enough here. And this Cardinals team versus righties is pretty good, where I wouldn't mind going to some of them. I just didn't get there. And I think that could be a bit of a blind spot, because I think these guys do have pretty good power across the board, and they're also hitting well, really, the top 2 through 4, I think especially, all hitting well to start the year.
Yeah. You bring up good points about them hitting well at the start of the season. And I know Anibal has had, he struggled against both sides for his career. So if you think he's regressing, this is another stack you should look at. I mean, these guys all hit righties really, really well, like DeJong and Ozuna. Jose Martinez arguably hits righties better than lefties. And then Yachty just never strikes out. So, it feels like I just want to stack like every single team on this slate. And there's just some that are unfortunately going to get left out. And I think St. Louis might be one of them.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to have a ton of Reds and watch all these other stacks blow up. And I'll be like, well, I guess that's why you play the Vegas total.
Yeah, exactly.
And on the national side, I guess to close it out with them, I think you could go a bunch of different ways with them too. But just me going against Wainwright seems like a nice move, because he's not missing bats at all so far this year. His numbers going back to last year are bad: 8% swinging strike rate, 25.4% chase rate. But then this year he's been down to a 6.2% swinging strike rate, a 22% chase rate. So really not missing bats at all. And you could argue that he's actually been lucky with the kind of mediocre games he's had so far. And this Nationals team does have a lot of power in its lineup. So I think there's some opportunity here for him for a bunch of different stacks.
Yeah, I think he could be close to washed, if not washed already. So he wasn't missing bats. I mean, he hasn't been basically all season. So I especially love like Soto and Matt Adams for $4,500. The rest of the bottom of this lineup isn't that intriguing for me, even against Wainwright. So that's my only issue. I'm getting to them more as like 2-man stacks.
And there are guys in the chat. Cancer33, love how little people are talking about the Cards. Mike agrees. And the Nationals. Yeah, this game, I think overall, I mean, if you're looking also at a side or a game where both sides are implied for runs, then maybe that sort of drives it up. I don't think there's any correlation necessarily, but both sides here should be in play more than they probably are. And nobody owned in the game besides Carpenter and Molina. Those are the only guys in double digits.
Yeah, that seems. I can't believe Yachty is one of the highest owned guys. I guess catcher's not great tonight. So.
Yeah, I think whenever the catcher sucks, which is every night, then somebody just goes, people just play the guy they know, which is Molina.
Yeah, just play the guy you know.
What else? Somebody asking in the chat, how about the A's stack? The A's were stacked. We talked about earlier in the show, but I think they're really good. I'll give you the reasons once more why. I pitched Jake on them before, so this is why. Rick Porcello so far this year, 2.13 WHIP, 5.7 xFIP, 13.3 hits per nine, all of which are amongst the worst on the slate. Just not getting a ton of strikeouts either, not getting people to chase or swing at strikes. So it is not a good situation for him if this A's lineup does hit as they're capable of. And there are a lot of guys here who have power and make good contact and get on base. So I think it could be a long night for him, but could just be a high-scoring game in general.
Yep. I just like targeting against Porcello. I think he's generally overrated and people don't target against him enough. So you guys probably heard me say that last year if you did watch a bunch of the Live Before Locks and the strategy shows last year. I still believe the same thing about him. So I've got no problem targeting against Porcello. He does give up a bunch of hard contact at times as well.
Yep, that is true. Makad asking in the premium Slack, who is the Paul Blackburn of the night? Of course, that is an award, a historical award going back to our early Osmo live streams last year. We're trying to pinpoint who is the crappy pitcher or quote unquote crappy cheap pitcher who may end up in a lineup as a low owned piece. I think I would go Alcantara, even though he doesn't fit the crappy criteria. He does fit the cheap and lowish owned criteria.
Yeah,
that would be the only guy I have.
So that was the first guy I was kind of looking at. The other, I mean, I'm getting exposure to Vargas. I have a Jason Vargas problem. Like, this guy always comes up for me. And maybe Alex does too, because the projections on the site also seem to like him. And when I think they're going to bring him down for me, they just seemingly never do. So, I don't know. I guess it's Vargas. But I actually think Alcantara is probably a better play.
Yeah, I think Vargas, look, if we're going just off of Vegas totals alone, which is something which is helpful when you're paring down pitchers, just to kind of look at that as the first point to square off some guys. Vargas, the total, I think, has come down a little bit throughout the day. He was, I believe, at 4.1. We started the day. You had him at 3.8. I saw him at 4.0. But he's somewhere in that range, and it's low enough where he doesn't have a lot of upside for sure, but this Reds lineup also bad. It's sort of an immovable object versus unstoppable force thing where they're both kind of bad, and somebody's going to be the less bad option of the two potentially.
Like, you would think someone has to have value there, right? Because it's just like, how can someone not have value? Like, they've got a cheap pitcher against a bunch of cheap bats, so something's got to happen there. You would think.
You would think. You would hope and think. I will say the one thing, too, that gave me a little bit more hope, the Mets bullpen's been really bad to start the year. 4.9 xFIP, giving up 9.5 hits per nine and a 1.6 WHIP. So they're giving stuff up. So even if Vargas somehow survives and, he makes it through 5 innings without getting banged up, they could get the bullpen as well. And that's, like, there's a lot of things I'm pinning my hopes to with the amount of Reds that I got. I hate it so much.
Yeah, I got way too many Reds, it's looking like, so... But it seems like we've ended up this year more and more on the same stuff. So, I don't know. We've lived and died together this season.
We have. And today it'll be with the fine folks of Cincinnati and their Skyline Chili. Do you know Skyline Chili, Jake?
I don't know.
I've never had it, but it is their known delight where they have chili loaded up with like cheese and sour cream and some other stuff. And that is Cincinnati's best known food item.
Sounds dreamy.
Yeah, it's a heavy
I love
one.
a good chili, so my mom makes the best in the world, and I guess that can have second in my heart.
To be clear, by it has cheese on top. I mean, it's loaded to the gills with cheese, like shredded cheese on top.
That sounds great.
I guess, and there's spaghetti underneath. Is that yeah? I think that's the thing too. Yeah,
that's very nice.
So there's a lot going on in the world of chili in Cincinnati. So. If this happens, Jake, we should all eat chili with pasta tomorrow to celebrate.
I'm with it.
The heaviest chili imaginable.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we have question-wise? Anything else that we haven't talked about, Jake, which you find in your crunches that you want to hit on?
Just a question for you. Have you gotten into like the ranking of lineups?
No, so I'm still wondering how these guys are doing that because I haven't really fully gathered how. Like, I think is Josh running simulations? Because that's something I don't do, but I like the concept of it, but it's not something I'm doing.
Yeah, I like the concept of it too. So that's something I've been playing around with right now. As you probably see me trying to scramble and trying to do it for NHL too. It's I think a little bit tougher without ownership projections, but just trying to figure out how much leverage your lineups have and ranking them that way, I think is a pretty good way to start. So, some sort of equation with the ownership and then maybe the opposing pitcher's ownership and coming up with individual player rankings and weighting their projections like that. So that's what I'm experimenting with. I didn't know if you had anything more to add, but if you're just like, I actually upload that column onto FC under the adjusted projections column. So, yeah, if anybody's seeing that, that's what that is. That factors in ownership and opposing pitcher ownership for hitters.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I would be curious to get whatever formula you're using for that, because I don't really like it's hard. That's definitely a next level thing. And Josh will be talking more about the next level fantasy cruncher stuff that he does in an upcoming video. So I'd keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, I think there's a certain level of depth with that like Adam and Josh are doing right now, which I'm not at for building lineups, but I certainly respect.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a smart thing to do. So I'm just trying to figure out a smart way to do it. So I just don't have all the answers, but maybe you guys will see me on stream try to refine my process during these live before lock shows.
Yeah, I'm just always battling projections to make them spit out what I see data-wise, because like there are some times where I want to target something that, like the Arizona stack, probably not going to come up for a lot of people in projections, but to me that's one which I would want to have, in part for that reason, because they do have a ton of upside, but they're probably not going to pop for people. But I think stuff like that, I find like I miss a little, and that's why I still lean towards hand building and just use the optimizers as a jump off point. But there's probably a middle ground somewhere in there.
Did we answer this one? What do you think you will regret most tomorrow? What play? Not what.
Oh,
not
Cincinnati.
What Cincinnati?
Yeah, it's got to be Cincinnati.
For me, probably one of Cincinnati or Vargas. Hopefully, it makes me forget about it when I bank one way or the other. But yeah, it's probably that matchup. Something's going to go very, very wrong.
Yeah, it's either that or my amount of Alcantara. Like Cleveland suddenly becomes Cleveland from last year today. That would be problematic for me a little bit. But
yeah.
Also, Julio Teheran, I didn't get there quite as much, but like I kind of forced myself to put him in less because I just think there's some danger here in this lineup for him. And he's got a good swinging strike rate on the year, but he just always screws you over when you don't expect it. And I felt like his ownership was going to come up, even though it didn't come up that much. So he's another play I feel a little bit shakier on than I did earlier in the day.
Teheran, yeah, I mean, he's one I never really got on all that much throughout the day. I was getting much more Padres bats, so I ended up around the field on Teheran. I mean, if he came up, he came up, but kind of is what he is. At 8K, I don't think he's got massive upside here. It is a decent strikeout spot, but I just don't think he kills me very often here, and I think there is some potential leverage to gain when you go with these Padres bats.
Bauer, Cole, and Cash, that is unequivocally Bauer. I would think that's not even close.
Yeah, Bauer for me. He's my number one by a good margin.
Yeah, ownership and projection-wise, it's hard. Cole at least has some risk because Minnesota does have a pretty good hitting lineup. As we saw yesterday, I mean, they battled Verlander about as much as you can with only putting up one run.
So that was a stack I really thought I was going to get to, is Minnesota, but based on the leverage. So maybe I haven't completely refined my process, so it's hard for me to tell if I'm doing this correctly, but like Minnesota, a lot of their hitters do grade out well against righties. Maybe not righties as good as Cole, but like I'm always looking to target Rosario and Cruz, righty lefty doesn't matter. Kepler, same thing. So didn't get to much Minnesota outside of a couple one-offs here and there, but that would be one that like I wouldn't be surprised if a couple Minnesota hitters were in the top ranked lineup tonight.
Yeah, and Polanco too in that grouping. Like he's been hitting really well. His price was up the other day, and now it's back down to earth because I guess maybe because of the matchup. But yeah, I think there are a couple ways you can go there, and the lineup's just hitting really well versus righties. Where would have been a good one. I think that too. My lack of Nationals Cardinals. I think I don't have enough of those guys. That's something too, which gives me some pause.
Yeah.
All right, we got all the questions in here. Oh, here's one last one which we can answer for prosperity, even though it's locked. Carpenter, Suarez, or Moran? Your pick.
Suarez.
There you go. That is Jake's dong pick. This is going to be on the board today, so hopefully you're tailing with Suarez because Jake is a known Suarez expert.
Yeah, so I'm going to need like a triple dong to get back in the race here. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to grind my way this entire season, but we'll see.
Yeah, if you're tailing picks on the home runs, Josh went with Rhys Hoskins. I have Javi Baez, and Jake has Eugenio Suarez. So those are the ones which hopefully will come through today. We've been getting better, Josh and I, but Jake still needs to figure it out. And honestly, I still need to get better, so I'm not losing to Josh. That's really what I care about.
Yeah, exactly. You still got that to conquer, but we'll see where we're at the end of the season. Long season here.
It is, and you're a man of runs, so you'll go on yours at some point. I'm very confident.
Yeah, let's start tonight. I'm getting a little nervous. I might go Chris Davis here for the entire month of April.
I believe in you. You are the baseball savant. That's how you got that name. All right, we're locked now, right? It's not a 410.
Yep. We're locked.
Okay. We're locked. So thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button on the way out. Use the promo code live before lock. You can get in there for half off your first month of any package. If you do that, you get a lot of night slate content, which we'll have. Again, we have the best ownership projections in the entire industry for the night slates. That is why our management team makes a lot of money off of night slates. They're very good at it. They know what they're doing. So go check it out now. Use promo code live before lock to get half off your first month. I'll be back tomorrow with Josh, I think, on this here show. So we had do some schedule rejiggering. But Jake, any parting words for the folks before we go?
Enjoy this slate tonight. Check out some other sports. I'm sure there's some nice playoff basketball, and there's a couple NHL games as well, so you don't just have to watch baseball. But yeah, definitely check out those night slate ownership projections. Those are very helpful. If you have a 9 to 5 or whatever, you're on the East Coast, you can't play, check out the night slate. Fire those up. Become a premium Osmo sub for that reason alone, because there is quite a big edge on some of these later slates.
And I'm putting the link in chat now, but it looks like Fast Eddie's already live, so go check him out now. Let me playoff DFS live. I feel like I just need to put in the actual thing. There we go. NBA playoff DFS live before lock. So go check that out. Go check out Eddie now live. We'll be back in tomorrow. So hit that like button on the way out, and good luck.